Hey guys, welcome back to episode 5 of Obsoleet. I'm Famicoman, and it's just back to me again today. No more guest segments or anything. And got a pretty interesting show for you today. I'm actually trying to do 2 cameras, which is pretty cool. I picked up a compact VHS camera for about 15 bucks, and as far as I know, it works pretty well. And I'm going to be trying to work in 2 cameras. So hopefully you'll be seeing some of that. I haven't checked the tape on it yet, so hopefully everything didn't, go to waste, and you'll be able to see 2 camera angles. And I'm also experimenting again with some lighting. And if you think it's hard to do lighting for 1 camera, 2 cameras it's just crazy. But without wasting any more time, I'm going to go into the first segment, which is VHS Basics. Alright, so as you see in front of you, there's a VCR. And I'm going to be talking about VCRs and VHS. And some of you may wonder, why even talk about this? Doesn't everybody know what a VCR is? And like thinking back to myself, I think that DVDs came out when I was like 6 or 7 years old. And I'm sure that there's people that watch this that are a lot younger than I am, and they may not even know, what VHS is, what a VCR is, how it works. And I'm planning on doing a lot more VHS-oriented segments, showing off some of the oddities and some of the weird stuff, and how to copy everything over to digital, how to deal with macrovision, stuff like that. And so I thought I'd do a quick primer segment on VHS before I go into anything, regarding oddities or whatever, so people know what is standard. And VHS stands for vertical helical scan, and it's a magnetic tape format that was introduced by JVC in 1976. And what a lot of people don't realize is that VHS won, but not only over Betamax. I touched on the Betamax war before, where VHS and Betamax are basically going tit for tat, trying to outdo each other to become standard. But people don't realize that there was a ton of other formats. Like there was the Sony U-Matic, there was the Video 2000, which I believe was done by Phillips. There's a ton of formats. Everybody and their sister came out with a different type of home recording format, and VHS won, beat them all. So that was pretty cool. As for the actual specs for VHS, it has 3 megahertz of video bandwidth. You have your chroma and your luma. And for audio, it started out as a single linear track, and then it went on to stereo linear, and then hi-fi came out about 1985 to go against beta, because they came out with their beta hi-fi. And hi-fi is CD quality. And what's interesting is that when it was first marketed, it was put into home recording VCRs, and because VCR stands for video cassette recorder, and some of the earlier ones I believe only had play functionality. But with the whole advent of recording stuff at home, the idea was that you would take your radio and hook it up to your VCR whenever they were doing some sort of concert, and you wanted to record that so you could get the audio from your radio in hi-fi and then dub it in with the video. So that's probably kind of a cool thing to do. I don't know if anybody actually ever did that, but who knows. And then with VHS, there was a number of improvements. Super VHS came in to replace it in 1987. It never really caught on as a consumer format because, VHS was everywhere, and nobody wanted to upgrade to go to Super VHS when it was only a little bit of improvement. There was also VHS-C, which is compact VHS, came in 1982 for handheld recorders. And there was WVHS, which is digital VHS, came out in 1989. And this was for Muse recordings. If you guys remember me talking about laser discs, there was Muse, which was basically the high-def television of the 80s. And then there was also Digital S, which is also known as D9 for professional use, which came out in 1995, used limitedly for TV stations. Some cool stuff is that there's some actual computer data backup for use with VHS, which was done mainly in Russia. And Hewlett-Packard tried to do something with it, but then they just got rid of it because of DAT tapes. VHS is split up into 3 different regions, CCAM, PAL, and TSC. And you need a special player to play each kind of tape. They're all multi-system players, which you can just throw any tape at them and it'll play them. But for the most part, you don't find those around very often. And the VCR has pretty much been replaced. It's pretty much the outcast of the video world now. You know, for the home recording capabilities, DVRs came out around, I don't know, 10 years ago or so. And they've been really cutting into VHS at first. You know, I don't really think it was anything that you'd right away with. I mean, VHS still had the advantage of, you know, you could record onto tapes, you could keep the tapes, you could take the tape out and move it from room to room, whereas the first DVRs, you know, they had limited storage and you couldn't go from room to room. But now with everything, if you have more DVRs, they can, you know, sync up with each other. There's huge hard drives and stuff like that. And DVD basically replaced it as a consumer format in 1997. But the last big blockbuster movie on VHS came out in 2005. It was A History of Violence. But there have been like small little videos coming out since then on VHS. For example, in Japan, there's been a couple, and just more independent features. You can get them on VHS as well as DVD. Sometimes they package them together. And what's interesting is that VHS is still pretty popular. I mean, most of the tapes come out now are blank, but they're still making these tapes, and these tapes have been around forever and ever. And apparently Panasonic last year came up with plans for the first combination VHS Blu-ray player. I don't know if that's going to come out at all, but that would be kind of cool, kind of be a good homage to VHS. So now I'm going to show you 2 players here. This is an older one. This is an RCA Selectavision VHS player, which is probably funny because you guys remember me talking about those big discs for Selectavision. But RCA actually rebranded or reused the name Selectavision for their VCR line. And this is a pretty standard VHS player right here. And you have your power button, you have a timer, so this one was obviously for, you know, recording purposes, not just playing. Stop, play, rewind, fast forward, record. You have your eject button, clock, and then you have all your presets for your stations. And you can set the clock over here. Now I'm going to do a quick note about home recorders. The first home recorders used 4 heads, and that was to rival the 2-headed VCRs that just played. And when the 4-head models came out, a lot of people were kind of upset about this. I mean, of course they were great for consumers because you could record, but for playing back just your commercial tapes, they actually shrunk the head size to fit more heads, so you'd have more control with the 4-head models for recording. And the 2 heads that would normally play got a lot smaller, and a lot of people were kind of upset about the accuracy that these 2 heads would have. But nowadays, it really doesn't matter anymore. I mean, the technology is so cheap, you could probably get top of the line, you know, 4 heads and have perfect standard playback. And there's even some models which I'll hopefully be showing you later. There's like 6-head models, 8-head models. There's models with flying erase heads, self-cleaning heads, all kinds of good stuff. Alright, so now here, you know, your standard T120 tape. And if you're wondering about the letters, T is for NTSC recordings, and I believe E is for PAL recordings. So you have your tape here. I mean, you just eject it. This is an old top-loading model. These are the first to come out. You know, you put your tape in, push it down, then you hit play, and then it would play. I should probably have to do power play. There you go. Makes a nice grinding noise, which is always good. But just gonna stop that for right now. Now we're gonna move on. Here's a newer VCR by Phillips. It's their Magnavox brand here. And this is a front-loading VCR. It's a lot lighter than the old ones. It comes with a VCR Plus, where you could actually, at the time when this is available, I don't think it's around anymore, you could look up a code for your TV show, and it's a programming code, and you could input it into your VCR, just the code, and it would know when and what channel to record if you want to make a recording. And this is a 4-head model with hi-fi, which is good. You got your power, your VCR TV button, play, stop, rewind, fast forward, record. And I'm going to go to the backs of these models. So you can see you have stereo, audio, and video here. And then you have your antenna. See right here. So you have your output and your input. And then going back to the humongous old guy over here. You don't have that. I mean, you have antenna for UHF and you have your VHF stuff here, but this one lacks composite inputs and any RCA plugs of any type. And there are some later models that have that, but this one doesn't seem to. And that's it for VCRs, and hopefully I'll be bringing you some more interesting stuff with VCRs in upcoming episodes. Hope you guys liked that segment. As I said in the segment, I plan on doing a lot more VHS oriented segments, maybe doing something on VHS style camcorders. I talked about doing, converting your tapes over to digital and dealing with macrovision, also stuff with, video processors. Probably going to show off some editing decks, VHS oddities like dual deck VCRs, maybe even like automatic rewinders, time-lapse VCRs. There's just a ton of stuff I can do with that. And now get ready for the next segment, which is Payphone Anatomy. So right here is a Protel payphone. Now, payphones first came out in about 1889, and they were really popular. I believe the first one was in a bank in Connecticut, and by 1960 there were 1 million Bell payphones in the United States, and in 1981 that number got even bigger because independent stores started selling payphones, and by 2000 there were over 2 million payphones in the United States. However, more recently that number has dropped to about 700,000, mostly around 2007, 2008, because a lot of the phone companies are starting to get rid of them. They don't want them anymore, they're too expensive to maintain, and so most people would basically say that the payphone has died, and that there isn't really a use for them anymore. I mean, cell phones came out and everybody has a cell phone, and telephone companies are making more money off of cell phones than off of payphones, and why keep both? So payphones are starting to bite the dust. Now, something interesting about with the 1981 independent sales, that opened up something called a COCOT, which is a customer-owned coin-operated telephone, and that's what you see right in front of you. This is a